Today I had put up a video called Just Play, and I did this new Horizons page. And I was playing with Distress Oxide. This is my one and only, Distress Oxide color. Maybe I'll start collecting them, huh? But there's an advantage in having just one, because it forces you to find out what it can do. And so I'm going to work more with the Just Play, and I'm curious to see what this is going to do with acrylic paint. Now, I think I saw a little of it in this area in here. Watching the videos out on the internet and on YouTube and even Ranger's videos, I had spritzed this with water, I had put it by itself, and here I had mixed it with some layers of acrylic paint, and I do think that affects it. So what I'm going to do is put this aside, and I'm going to experiment in these little squares with this Distress Oxide and acrylic paint. Now I'm going to, on the first 8, use Deco Arts Americana. It's a matte paint. I'm not using the satin. Well, I do have one yellow satin. That'll be interesting to see how it reacts with yellow. And on this side, I've got Apple Barrel, which is a Plaid Enterprises. And this happens to be a darker color. I'm trying to choose lighter colors, except for, well, yeah, I do have a couple darker colors over here in the deco. But I'm just going to do some little swatches here. And then I'm going to put my Distress Oxide over it. Now that's really, and I'm going to use both brands of craft paint. This is just craft paint. Maybe another experiment would be to use the glossy paints, or you know, you could just go wild with different tests. I have another sheet here where I'm just going to play with it freeform. I'm doing a little bit more of a controlled test over here. So let's just get started here. I'm going to start with the Deco Art, and we're going to start with, this is called Blue Haven. And let's just see how the oxide works with each of these colors. And I tried to leave a little white space so you could see a difference. I'm going to check and see if it's going to cover completely or if it's going to play with them after it dries a little. I would expect this to do what it's doing. Oh, look how it plays with the white. And I do think I'll put some water on at least half of each of these squares. To see what happens when it oxidizes. And this is just an experiment for me. This is my experiment. I want to see how these products play together. So I do see some with green and the white. The white, I see a lot of difference in there. These two almost look very similar, don't they? These three almost do. Now on my page, I had black in there too, which might have played with the gray tones that I was getting on that page. Okay. Ooh, I kind of like that just the way it is. Except we're not done yet. If I can zoom in a little bit more. I might have to move my paper around. I'm trying just to spritz one side of it. And I'm not sure that's going to be possible. But I'm trying. Because the paper's not... Ooh. The paper's not taped down for one thing. And I may be getting too much water on those, but if I try to lift my sprayer up, I just have a little sprayer. I don't have anything fancy. Now, my reaction, my inclination is to want to go in and blot some of this. I think I'll blot on this side, just for the fun of it. And I am getting some of the ink up, I believe. I'm not getting any of the paint up. The paint's dry. Well, let's dry it. Very wet puddle here. You will almost count water being on that entire black one. Plays with it in here. Now, let's just take my pad again, and I'm just going to color out the edges here. I would like to see this on a more flexible, I'd almost like to have these trays that they're on hinged, so that when I do something like this, the hinge would bend up. That's how I would make it if I were manufacturing these. You almost have to get your pad down on the surface when you're doing something like this. And you lose control of where it's actually going. Can't see. If it was hinged, then I could get part of it down there. Yeah. I like the play in there. A little absorbing going on in there, but that may be too due to how wet this was. I did try to dry all of these, but ooh, I like this one. Fun. Very fun. Very fun to experiment with it. Now, I'm going to get out my other sheet here. See, this actually has layers of dark and dark, kind of a maroon red on there, and I had some white blue, and I've got black in here. And I put this same Distress Oxide fossilized amber over it, and I do think that it absorbed, because I don't get that same, well, I get it a little, but I do think it oxidized some in there and absorbed it. It's a very interesting play on the different textures and colors in there. This happens to be like the medium point. And my water, I think I'm just going to spritz some water down on my drop paper right here, maybe. Let's put some on the paper. And I'm using Strathmore's 140-pound watercolor paper. Here again, this is the only color I have. If I had a darker color, I might be able to blend these a little bit more. Here I have a black Stabilo pencil. Let's just draw some lines with it. Stabilo is reactive with water. Let's see. This is a very wet towel that I was washing my brush off with. Let's just swipe it across there. That wiped it out, didn't it? That's okay. We can still play here. Put some more color in there, see what we can do with that. So I'm getting a very grayish color. Some water on the paper itself. Of course, this, I would think you'd want to do this more if you were sketching or working on something small, an ATC. I could not see doing this unless you went like this and took a larger brush and brushed it out. Very reactive with water. Let's take our Stabilo and draw some circles in here. Now, I have a wet brush. I'm going to put it right on my pad. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure I would use these specifically if I was doing a sketch, like if I was out urban sketching. I would probably go for my watercolors more than these. But I could see using these, and I've only got one color. I could see using these with water. If you were doing a tag or an ATC, a card. Here I put the pigment on the paper and drew my brush through it. Here I spritz water on the paper and then dip my brush in the pigment and put it on the paper. Some interesting effects. What else can I do with water and pencil? We all like our faces. Let's do a face. Let's do the swoosh again. I kind of like the swoosh. I do like the swoosh. Gets a lot of pigment on the paper at once. And let's just add some water with our brush here, and let's spray it here. Now it's very wet, and I'm going to use a towel to pick up some of this. And look, you can see it's automatically absorbing some of that pigment off of my towel. But that's okay. My paper's very wet. But let's do some faces here. Let's do Penelope. Penelope Rose. She said she would kindly model for us, so let's just do a quick sketch of Penelope here. And I'm using a Stabilo pencil, 8046. I'm not going to bother to sharpen it. It needs to be sharpened. She's got her eyes looking, she always has those flirty eyes. Got a lip there, and she's a pincushion doll, so she's got a round body. She's got this hair coming out that way. Just draw some pins on her. Got a little row of pins down here. A little fabric piece sticking out there with some pins in it. Yeah. And let's put some water on the paper. I almost wish I had more colors of this Distress Oxide to work with, but I don't. Now I want to know if I can lift. How permanent is this? I know the black's not going to be permanent, but let's see if I can. It's giving her a mask here. Lift up some of that oxide off her face. And get back to the white on it as much as possible. I'm kind of doing a little scrubbing there. A little. It did brighten it. It's not going to go totally white. There'll be some. That's probably the pigment that's resting on the page. Of course, I got the Stabilos adding some gray to it too, but let's dry it a little. I love her flirty eyes. I love that about Penelope Rose. And she's got sort of an oval face, very deco art style of hat. I call it a hat, could be her hair. And really it's more of a brown color, but I only have the Stabilo in my inks here, so let's put some dots in here. This is really a net, sort of a lace collar she's got on. And then she's got that bright orange eyelash hair coming out over here. Makes her, again, very flirty. And then, of course, different colors of pins coming in there. I could use some acrylic paint on that, but I'm not going to leave it just like that. Very fun. Very, very, very fun. What I have in here are the G2 and Pilot pens that Marianne McMillan sent to me. I think I'm going to see how they react on this with the pigment that I already have down there. I'm just going to pull a couple out. Let's start with the G2 because I see a red and I want some red for her lips. Put a red in there and then there. Give this page a little more color. Let's see how the red works on here. And let's do some spritzing. Oh, yeah. Ooh. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that. Let's draw some. Yeah, rose. Whenever you don't know what to do next, draw a flower. Let's give it some lines of color in here. Now, let's do a by a Pilot, G2 pens by Pilot. Let's spritz it. And let's do a little lifting. Kind of fade it off into the background. That's a greenish blue, but and where's my brush? Yeah. We want So when you do mixed media, you don't stick to one thing. Even though I was working with ink oxides, you can see I got way off into my ink pens here and my Stabilo pencil. And you just want to see how they all play together. Is what I'm going for here. Put some water on that. Of course, the Stabilo's taking over, so I'm going to blot him off just a little. Let some of those other colors play. Yeah, let's blot him in here. Fun to play, fun to watch and see how they all work together. Now here again, I only have one color of this Distress Oxide, but it's fun to see how it plays and works with the other product that I have. This is Fossilized Amber, all in the background, and that's really kind of my play sheet. Here I used different swatches of craft paint, and I wanted to see how that Distress Oxide worked with the craft paint. That's interesting. See, I do think that it's the craft paint absorbs it somewhat, and you get this grayish tone in there. It reacts with it, which I would expect it to. I believe that was the lavender color. I like that. Even the white down here, almost toned it out to the straw color over here. This is very pretty. Look what's happening in there. Very interesting to see how the two media play with each other. Let's zoom out a little. Those are my experiments for today. I'll have to build up my oxide stash here. Yeah. Just fun to play and experiment. I will see you on the next page.